Blocks here. Today we're going to recreate the Stardew Valley dialogue system in Godot. It's going to have a name, it's going to have text that goes by, it's going to have sound, it's going to have an indicator, and it's going to have a sprite that represents the emotion of the character. Let me show you some examples. He's happy here, he's mad, he's excited, he's sad. If you like this tutorial, be sure to like and subscribe. I also want to mention that this tutorial is based on a user called Aphiles tutorial, and I'll have his link to his video in the description. Okay, let's get started. Let's go over the scene. So the root node is a control node, and we're going to have a portrait on one side and the dialog on the other. We have a sounds folder, which is a really quick wave file. We have a textures folder with a 9-patch image, and we have a sprite sheet that has 4 frames on it. And then we have a JSON file, which you can't see in Godot, but it's just in an array of structure here, and so it has a name, emotion, and text, and there's 4 of them. And we'll go over what the emotion means later. And under the control, we have a 9-patch rect, and I've already pulled in the texture for it. And then for the margins, I'm just using 3. So you can see here the little red dots. Yep. And then after that, we have a RichTextLabel for the name. So this would be the NPC's name. I'm using the BB code. I have it enabled, and I just have some default text there that says name. And then we have pretty much a duplicate, and this is for the actual dialogue. I'm going to shrink it here so it fits in the right space. It is also BB code enabled. And then we have just a polygon 2D, which I drew. So there's a little button in the top left right there, and you can create the points. So I just created 3 points and put them together, and then I changed the color to red. And then it has an animation player itself, so it makes the little triangle bounce up and down. So in that animation player, I just set a keyframe on the position, and then I go over half a second and set it in a new position, so it just bounces up and down. There you go. So you see it bounce up and down. Then I have it set to autoplay, and then I have it set to loop. Okay, and then the portrait background is just the same thing, another 9-patchRect, the same margin of 3. Then a portrait is just a sprite with the 4 frames, and I say it has 4 horizontal frames, has 1 vertical frame, and I just have it starting out at 0. And timer, this is what's being used between each letter of the text that goes by. And then the AudioStreamPlayer, I need it so I can play my wave file. Okay, let's go over the code. The dialog box has a script associated to it. Let's look at some of the variables. So we have a dialog path. That's the path of the JSON file. We have text speed. That's how fast the text goes by when it's going each letter. And then a variable to the audio stream. A one for dialog, which is going to be a object that's going to hold this. So as it goes through each of those letters, and this is a object that's in an array. The phrase numbers, sorry. And then finish is when it's done. Then I have an Enum that tells me which emotion the portrait's going to show. So I have my sprite sheet. The first one's happy, and that's 0. Mad, 1, excited, 2, and so on. Okay, then I have some functions here. So this first one is get dialog, which is going to read the JSON file. and then it's going to assert that it exists. If it doesn't, it's going to throw an error. So it's reading that variable in and saying dialog JSON. And see if that file exists. If it is, it's going to open it up in read access. It's going to convert it to JSON. And then there's this little check here to see if it's an array or just a string. So it's going to return an array or an empty array if nothing's there. Okay, and the next one is get a motion frame. So we're going to pass it in a number from the JSON file. And depending upon what it relates to in the enum, it's going to return an ID, and the underbar is just the default one. If nothing is available, then it's going to show 0. And then play sound, it's just going to randomly pick a pitch higher or lower than the sound itself and play it. So it doesn't say the same beep, 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 beep each time the letters go by, but it'll kind of go up and down. And then this is the big one, which is the next phrase. So it sees how long the dialog is. If it's greater than how long the dialog array is, then it's just going to free it up, and it's going to remove the dialog box from the screen. And it's going to say, otherwise it's going to say finishes, false. It's going to read the name and the text from the dialog. So in this JSON file, in the first object of the array, it says name. It's associated to that one. And then text is associated to that one. So it's going to make the BB code for the name be the name that's on there, and then it's going to make the BB code for the text to be the text. And then we're setting a visible character 0, and then we're getting the motion frame from the emotion, and then we're having a while loop. And if the while loop is greater than text, it's going to keep adding another letter. And in between each letter, it's going to do a timer. And the timer is going to yield until the timeout ends. So the while loop is just going to wait until it's done, depending upon the text speed there. And then when the timeout finishes, then it's going to go to the next iteration of the while loop. And if the while loop is done, it's going to say finish true. And then it's going to go to the next item in the array from the dialog. And then we have a process method. The process method is going to say if you hit enter key, then go to the next phrase. Otherwise, it's going to, if there's nothing left to be finished, it's going to set the visible characters to all of the characters. And then in the ready event, we're going to set the text speed, so how fast it goes to each one. Going to grab that dialog from that method. If dialog's not found, it's going to throw an assert error, and then it's going to start the next phrase method. Okay, let's run the app. So you see the text go by, the little icon shows up, we hit enter, it shows the mad emotion, the excited emotion, and then you hit enter one more time, so there's sad emotion, right? I hope you like this tutorial. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.